This is going to be a quick video that is a follow-up to the interview techniques video. That's why this is called interview techniques number 2, because there's a couple of things that video doesn't cover that I think will be useful for your interviews for this class specifically. And let's dive in. So these are interview techniques number 2. So I covered this when I discussed the assignment sheet in general, and that is the different ways that you can do this. You can do it in person, you can call over a phone, or you can use a video. So it could be a phone call or a video call. Those are your options for this. And then I went on to talk about how you want to record this, but you have to ask. And I said, if your interviewee says no, that you can't record the interview, now you need to take notes by hand. And that's something that you should probably do even if you are recording the interview. The reason for this is that you should expect your technology to die. This means that if you're in person and you're using your phone as a recorder and your phone dies in the middle of the interview, you don't notice until a day or two later. You're like, okay, I need to go through that recording and actually start working on my paper. And that's when you realize that you're missing half of your interview. So all of a sudden now you're relying on memory, but the point of this paper is to use precise quotes. And if you're trying to recall something you did several days ago, the details of it, that is often a very difficult thing. So even if you're recording, expect your technology to die, and so take notes by hand. Same thing with a phone call or a video call. If you're on your computer or your phone and you have a recording app or program installed, it might shut off. And if you don't notice that, again, you're going to have a partial interview. And this happens to at least one student per semester where their technology does die or fail in some way. And if they took notes by hand, they're okay. They're going to have some things that they can use to reconstruct that conversation. If they don't, all of a sudden things get a little bit harder. Maybe they have to redo their interview, or maybe they just deal with the half interview they have, but that's oftentimes not effective. Another thing that is a benefit of taking notes by hand is that you're able to look at those notes a lot faster than you're able to listen to a recording. And you can quickly go down and say, oh yeah, this is the part of the interview where we talked about this interesting thing. And then that helps you in the recording find that section rather than having to listen through the entire thing. When taking notes, it's just like taking notes in class. You don't want to write everything down the person says. Instead, it's keywords, key phrases, interesting things that they said. But if you do take notes by hand, you want to revisit those notes right after the interview. The reason for this is because, just like we were talking about with memory fading, your memory is going to fade with those notes. If you look at the notes that you took for a class a couple of years ago, how many times have you done this and realized you have no idea what those notes mean anymore? You have no idea what it was that you were trying to help yourself remember. Now, that's not going to happen over the span of a couple of days, but the sooner you check your notes, the more precise they're going to be. So look at your notes and then flesh them out. Give yourself full sentences, full phrases, rather than just those keywords. Because again, as those days go on, it's going to be harder and harder for you to do this. And the point of this paper is to include precise quotes. Okay? Another couple of things to keep in mind is that you want to, when setting up your interview time, schedule around your interviewees' schedule. This means that everyone is busy, including yourself, but your interviewee is doing you a favor by talking to you. They're taking time out of their day that they could be doing anything else. And we want to be appreciative of that. And so you want to make sure that you're picking a good time for your interviewee. This might mean that maybe you wake up a little bit earlier, or maybe you have to stay up a little bit later. Maybe you have to move some things around. Try not to miss any classes, right? Try not to miss work. But make sure that it is a time that is comfortable for your interviewee. Because if you pick a time that doesn't really work for them, now all of a sudden they might be rushed, they might be distracted, and they might not be as happy to talk to you. And we want to keep our interviewee happy, because happy interviewees make for good interviews. To go along with that, use a medium that they want. If you're comfortable meeting in person and they aren't, don't meet in person, right? If they want to talk on a phone or through a video call, use one of those. So let them know what the options are, and then pick the one that they want to use. You have to be flexible, and it goes back to happy interviewee, happy interview. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. We want to be the flexible ones, because again, the interviewee is doing a favor for us. So those are the things that I hope will be helpful for you that weren't quite addressed in that first interview techniques video. Again, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, about organizing your interview, about scheduling your interview, of course, let me know and we'll figure it out.